Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3, we're good? All right. Thank you so much for participating today in the Kingdom Maze Moguls. My name is Antonio Sperling. I have the awesome privilege to host this session and episode today. I have a gentleman, I want to give you a little bit of a background in my relationship with him. His name is Mr. Robert Nesbitt. He goes by Bob Nesbitt. Mr. Nesbitt, very well-educated gentleman, very well-rounded, very balanced. I met Mr. Nesbitt probably, 30 years ago?
Yeah.
Probably 30 years ago when you were president of All America Bank.
Around 2000, year 2000.
Yeah, around 2000. That was 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And so I was, at the time, in different business dynamics as I am now. And Mr. Nesbitt helped me through and kind of coached me on some different financial management styles and strategies, things like that, buying and selling real estate. And so he's been very instrumental in my life. And thankfully, I stand before you as a debt-free man now, partly because of some of the wisdom he shared with me on different strategies and things along the lines of managing money and banking. And so this gentleman's background, I mean, it is very, very extensive. He joined Engel Realty many, many years ago. He's been in commercial real estate transactions, having been involved in over hundreds of millions of dollars in real estate transactions. He actually owns, everyone say owns. He actually owns a lot of the property over in the Crossplex area in Inslee and 5 Points West. He actually owns a Comfort Inn and Suites. Very nice hotel over there. So put your hands together for that. Just awesome. Man of color, just a man of vision, a man of tremendous talent. When I was looking at his background, I was just saying it's very extensive. Clients such as Regions Bank, clients such as BP Oil, clients such as JP Chase Morgan. I mean, you know, clients such as, I just got to give you the list. I want you to know, I mean, really who's in our midst. So I'm so glad to have him here. And, you know, the scripture says we should let the lips of another praise thee, not thee thyself. And so today I just want to thank God, not praise a man, but thank God for giving us such an awesome person in that of Mr. Bob Nesbitt. But what I did want to point out to you was that Mr. Robert Bob Nesbitt used to be a president of a bank. And I don't know about you, but being a man of color and being a president of an entire bank, that's a significant undertaking, and it's something that I do not take very lightly. And knowing him, just to kind of give you furtherance of his list of clients, Regions Bank, Jet Pep Oil Company, Shell Oil, BB&T Bank, Bank Corp South, Environmental Law Group, City of Birmingham, State Farm, Watco Transportations, has over 30 years in commercial banking. So this is that guy. This is that guy. I would also like to say too, you know, Pastor has been teaching a lot about members of the church buying and owning gas stations. That was a prophetic word he's been sharing with us over the last 5 years. And so when I was praying about who to invite, I started thinking in terms of who do I know that own gas stations that are a man and woman of color. And Mr. Nesbitt's name came up. And so he has his feet and his footprint academically, educationally, and financially in a lot of different sectors. And so I want to introduce to some and to reacquaint you with others, if you will, Mr. Bob Nesbitt. Put your hands together as we welcome Mr. Bob Nesbitt. All right.
Thank you so much.
And I would also like to add, too, he's very humble. And he's very ducked off, very low-key, very good at hunting, which I like to hunt. And this gentleman right here, as I said earlier, he's the kind of man that goes to Africa. And another mutual friend, Lou Hill.
Yeah, Lou.
Yeah, that I talked to earlier this week, right before I was speaking to you. And he's convinced me to go on a trip to hunt Africa. And these are not like $5,000 hunting trips. These are very expensive African trips. And so I understand you guys do a lot of hunting in Africa, things like that. Tell us a little bit about that before we get into just the business side of what are some of your hobbies, things you like to do, your schooling, education background. Share that with us.
Okay. Hunted in Africa. I'm a bow hunter. I hunt with a bow and arrow, just by choice. I love the sport of archery. But I've also hunted in Argentina, New Zealand, all over Canada, Mexico. So I'm very thankful that bow hunting that hobby of mine has taken me to different parts of the world. And usually I take my wife, and sometimes I take other members of the family, so all of us have gotten a chance to experience that.
Yeah, and so even with that, I think you just came back from a trip recently, right?
Yeah, of course. Now, it was just not quite a year ago that we were in South Africa again.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you took the whole family over
Yeah,
just
took
for
the
that.
whole family,
Yeah.
and took my son, a daughter, one of my daughters, and my son took his two kids. So that's what made the trip, was having the family there.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So tell us a little bit about your educational background and things like that. I know you have very extensive experience in banking.
Yeah, I went to Tennessee State University and earned a bachelor's degree there in business. Went to LSU for a master's degree in MBA. It really started off I was recruited to work in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and worked there for almost 5 years. I left right before my fifth winter. I was from the South and just did not like the winters at all. Cold weather didn't bother me, but it was the snow that got me. So came back right before my fifth winter and went to work for a bank in Nashville. And from there was recruited to come to Birmingham. And I must say, I wasn't excited at first about coming to Alabama. My nose was up in the air. You know, Alabama, I'm not going to Alabama. But Alabama turned out to be the place where I prospered. So you have to be careful about arguing with God about where to go.
Right.
Okay. Sometimes you got to go where you're sent.
That's right.
And it's been very good for me. But that banking experience, both in Nashville and at AmSouth, led me into. I was president of Al-America for about 5.5 years, and I was also president of Citizens Trust for about five or 6 years. And all of this experience, my experience in banking was primarily in real estate lending, so obviously that teaches you a little bit about real estate. And from there, I got into brokerage and development. So that's how it all started.
Right. So you've owned a total of how many gas stations?
I owned a total of 7.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to put you out there because, you and I have known each other very extensively and we're very highly discretionary men.
Yeah.
And I don't want to make you uncomfortable and I'm not trying to brag or overexpose you, but you've owned gas stations on Highway 280, gas stations out near Chelsea.
Yes.
Different, and I'm not
Yes.
talking about like mom and pop small gas stations. Share with us kind of the actual gas stations and how you got started in owning gas stations and things like that. Because having owned 7 gas stations, that's pretty significant. I don't want to get into the number side. I know it was multiplied millions of dollars for the development, multiple millions of dollars as far as earnings and things like that. So just from a numerical standpoint, how did you get started with the gas station? Well, back up. What motivated you to get into gas and oil business? Okay. And how did that actual evolution take place?
First of all, the first thing I want to speak to the audience about is the fact that my friend described me as the man, and I certainly don't think of myself as the man. I've worked very hard, and I've taken advantage of opportunities as they've come. But in my banking background, primarily while I was at AmSouth, and I was at AmSouth for 14 years in real estate lending. And a lot of my clients were oil companies, oil company distributors for Shell, for Chevron. So that would be McCullough Oil, Higginbotham Oil, Moore Oil, and companies like that. They were some of my clients. And I would lend to them, finance them, and they were usually building storage facilities. Some of them were actually building retail outlets. So I learned a lot from that process and actually just decided one day that because I was being given a lot of credit in banking for being an expert at financing oil company retail outlets, right? So I just decided one day, why don't I just try to do one myself? Because actually what I was doing is I was really making other people wealthy by providing them capital and also giving them advice in some cases. So I just decided that maybe I ought to try this. And I did. And One of my clients actually owned a piece of land in Tarrant. And I called him up one day and said, hey, I see you still own this property in Tarrant that you were going to develop on. Are you interested in selling it? I said, no, I don't have any interest in selling it. However, what do you got in mind? What do you have in mind? And I said, well, I'm thinking about doing one myself. And one thing led to another. I called up a bank and said, hey, if I did this, would you all lend me money? And fortunately, he said, yeah.
So approximately what year was that, though?
Oh, gosh. That was, oh, man, that was...
I know you joined
late,
England in 2011.
yeah,
so
but that was pre Al America, obviously. So this is the 90s.
The 90s.
Late 90s.
So you've owned gas stations since the late 90s? Or
Yeah, I don't own any now. I sold them all.
I understand.
And my last one, actually, I owned when I was offered the job as being president of Al America. And one of my reasons for not taking that job was the fact that I owned one more service station that had to be looked after. And Don Watkins, who was the founder of Al America,
Yes.
said, well, if that's your only reason, he said, because it was the stores for sale. It was the Chevron over on University Boulevard. Now it's a Shell.
Right.
But I built that from the ground up, and I wanted to sell it because I was getting out of the retail convenience store business. So he said, well, if I bought this from you, would you then come and run my bank for me?
That's what Mr. Watkins asked you.
Yeah. And I said, yeah. He said, you wouldn't have any more excuses then, would you? I said, no, I wouldn't. So I sold that one and went to work and ran the bank. We actually started the bank in 2000, ran it for 5 or 6 years, and that's how I got into the oil bit. And then, but they came one after. Once I did the first one,
Right.
they came relatively easy.
Right.
For me, because I knew how to finance them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are some of the how-tos to start a gas station that you'd like to share with our viewers today? Just kind of the process of what it took.
Well, I think, that's a tough one. Now, just keep in mind that I did have a finance background.
Okay.
And capital is a very important component of doing, whether it's a convenience store or a hotel, capital is very important. And knowing how to procure the capital is important. But I'm going to mention one fundamental that nobody's ever heard before.
Okay.
Actually, they probably heard it 1,000 times. It's location, location, location.
Okay.
And if you think you've found that location, then you've gotten the most important part of the puzzle behind you. Then you have to get the capital. Now, in my first one, when I mentioned the fact that I called up this banker and asked him if they would do my first one for me, I was actually doing an SBA loan.
Okay.
And those are still available,
Talk us through that process with the SBA loan and purchasing or acquiring real estate and starting a gas station.
Yeah,
Just in general,
there
nutshell.
are really two types of SBA loans. One's a 504 loan, and one is the SBA 7A guaranteed loan. I've never done those, but I did the 504 loan where the bank provides a first mortgage. Usually it's 50% of the amount of the total cost.
Okay.
SBA comes along and provides a second mortgage. But that second mortgage is a higher amount that would normally come from a bank. So in other words, you end up with, let me put it this way, if I went to a bank today and said, I want you to finance my convenience store for me, they would probably only provide at the most 75%. Well, doing the SBA loan, I ended up with 90% of the financing. So the bank would do 50 and the SBA would do 40. So for those like me, at the time, that didn't have a bunch of capital sitting in the bank, that opened the door.
Okay.
The first one, for the first one. So that's, and the SBA part, just if you're thinking SBA, and you should be, just keep in mind that those loans come from a bank. So it all starts with a bank. But you have to go to the bank letting them know that you're interested in an SBA 504.
Okay.
And so then they start the process.
So like in a hypothetical where if it's a $1 million total transaction, you're saying that the first mortgage would be $500,000.
Correct.
Just in that scenario.
Yes.
Then the SBA would come behind it with a 45% or another $450,000 lending for the second mortgage. Is that right?
Yes, yes.
And so that means the person acquiring this asset or starting this gas station then only needs 5% of $1 million?
Yeah, actually, it's 50-40. So the owner would come up with 10%.
Okay, so it's 10%. So in a hypothetical like that, assuming all things being equal, someone has a good credit score, have a decent lending history in banking. If they were to start a gas station and it takes, what do you think on average now in starting a gas station? If you had to buy the dirt in a decent location, build the storefront, what do you think, put the tanks in the ground, what do you think something like that would cost in today's economy?
This day and time, probably $1.4 $1.5 million.
Okay, so let's say $5 million. So in that situation, someone that wanted to start out in this economy right now would need $500,000, which is, $250,000, which is 5% or 10%.
If it was $1.5 million, dirt and all, they would need $150,000.
If it was $1.5 million, but you're saying it's, in this economy now, it's about a $4 or $5 million.
No, $1.5 million, $1.4 million to $1.5 million.
Okay, in 2026.
Correct. Yeah.
So you're saying $150,000 can get someone into a gas station with 10% of 1.5 million.
Yes.
Assuming all things are equal, they can get the
Yes.
500,000 in an aspect of a loan, another 40%, another 400,000. I mean, I'm using in my mind $1 million. I'm thinking 1.5, but I'm using $1 million for easy math. If it costs $1 million, then 500,000 would come off the first mortgage.
100,000. If the cost was $1 million, 100,000 would get the average person in.
Wow.
After the 90% financing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's good. That's impressive. Now, what in that scenario, as far as an investment, if someone were to obviously be in debt for 90% of $1 million, if it's $1 million, they come up with $100,000, what would be, in your experience, an anticipated amount of revenue generated in gross versus the net profit you think that entrepreneur could take away in that transaction, just based on your experience? And I know I'm just giving these hypotheticals here, but I'm trying to get the audience some food for thought here.
Well, I mean, the that would vary a lot.
I'm sure.
But I think the fundamentals of the economics are that let's see, on your revenue comes from two primary sources: gasoline and inside merchandise. Okay. Generally speaking, you've got a 10% margin on your gasoline.
Okay.
And generally speaking, you have a 25% margin on your inside sales.
Okay.
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 Now, the average one of these things for someone who is not their own general manager, you hire a general manager, you're going to make, in terms of take-home profits, take-home money, it's not as much as you would think off of one store, 150,000, something like that. And that's 150. It's going to between 125, 150,000. So that's why folks like me who started one saying, "Wait a minute, this is not as much as I thought." You end up doing 7.
Okay.
Now, the economics of them have changed. Why did I get out of that business? Well, because the market changed. Margins had been higher.
In the 90s compared to now?
Yes.
Even with gas prices at $5 a gallon?
Yeah, but the higher the gas price, the lower the margin.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Because, the retail price is high, but the wholesale price is high.
Got it.
And as prices go up, consumers will only pay so much. So
Right.
if consumers will only pay so much, or can only pay so much, your margins tighten. In other words, if the average price of a gallon of gas was $2, and your margin was 40 cent, 20 cent, and your margin was 10%, it's $2. I'm sorry, it's 20 cents, right? So if the price of gas is $4, sometimes you can't. I mean, sometimes in order to get that 10%, in order to get that margin you're looking for, it probably needs to be 405. But you can't charge 405.
Right.
Because the market is charging $3.99, 399.9, and you just can't get that extra 5 cents to get you the margin you're looking for. So the higher the price of gas to the retailer, the lower the margin.
Wow.
Yeah.
In your estimation and where we are right now in this economy and what's going on in Iran, the Strait of Hormuz, all these different political mechanisms that are at work, what is your anticipation as far as gas prices, based on your experience of being in the gas and oil business with 7 stations? You think it's going to stay around the same? You think it'll come back down, or what? What do you anticipate?
Well, once these conflicts have been resolved, I do expect substantial relief in the price, but it tends to never go back down to where it was. Oil companies just have a way of getting us all used to paying a high price. So if we consider the average price of gas $2.39, well, remember when it was $1.50, right? And so some conflict happens and it's $4. Is it going to go back to $2.39? No. It'll go back to something under $3, but it just never gets right back to where it was.
Right. So, talk to us from the standpoint of with exiting a transaction for a gas station. What does that look like? Is it something where you're doing a certain percentage of revenue, or is that based on the appraised value of the real estate, the revenue generation of the bill? I'm sure a combination of factors, but kind of walk us through what that looks like in an exit from the real estate. I mean, from the gas station, and I want to talk to you about the hotel business too, which I understand you own this beautiful hotel in Inslee, which I'm always glad to mention your name in that regard. But share that with us, if you don't mind.
Yeah, and of course, keep in mind that I exited the oil business in the year 2000.
I understand.
Okay? So, I'm sure some of these fundamentals have changed, but and I sold them all. I sold them all at a decent profit after paying off the loans. But the sale price usually is a multiple of your revenues, of your annual revenues,
Right.
and it depends on location. It's kind of like cap rates.
Right.
It depends on your location, but 3.5 to 4 times your revenue would be the sale price.
The gross revenue. So if a gas station is grossing $4 or $5 million a year, you sell it for.
And of course, they don't generally gross quite that much. You know, but it would be. I'd say, and as these margins have shrunk, I would say probably be closer to 3 times, than 4 times.
Right,
So,
but that's what I'm saying.
of the
So if a
revenue,
gas station generates, say, $2 million in a good location with all the gas and inside sales, and exit would be 2 or 3 times.
Yes.
So basically, a $2 million revenue generator, your exit is your 3x. You're coming out at $6 million.
Yes.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
So in that, that's pretty significant ROI. Let me ask you this. So coming out of the gas station business, having owned 7 gas stations, kind of help catapult you into owning the hotel? And for those of you that don't know, I would like to see if we can put it up on the screen, but I encourage you to pull it up on your phone. 2341 Crossplex Boulevard.
Yeah.
Birmingham, Alabama, 35208. That's the Comfort Inn that Mr. Nesbitt has in his ownership. But tell us about that building process. But before we get into that, I'm asking the question, did coming out of the gas station business, having 7 locations, help catapult you into owning the property of the Crossplex and is it like getting into the hotel business? And what motivated you to go in that direction? I know it's a loaded question. But.
It is a loaded question, but deserves an answer. Yeah, catapulted. I wouldn't say it catapulted,
Okay.
but it certainly made room for it. And I had made some money in the retail gasoline business. So it allowed me to be able to help finance myself when it came to being in the hotel business. Now, I won't say, first of all, I mean, I've wanted to be in business. It seems like I wanted that for all my life. That's all I talked about as an adolescent. You know, I want to own my own business. But owning a hotel was not part of that ambition.
Really?
It was not.
Okay.
I had to learn the hotel business, but I was approached by the city of Birmingham to look at that project. And the reason they wanted to talk to me about it was the fact that they had tried for so long, back when Mayor Langford was in office, they had tried so long to get a hotel developed adjacent to the Crossplex, because the Crossplex has been very successful in bringing outsiders into Birmingham, but they just never could get the hotel to work. And so when I was asked to come and take a look at it, I wasn't asked to do it, by the way. I was asked to, as a consultant, to figure out why it couldn't be done. Because so many so-called good developers had come in and looked at it and wanted to do it but couldn't get it done. And the reason was the fact that it was so difficult to finance. That property is located in what's called an underserved area, and it's a hotel. A lot of banks don't want to do hotels in areas that are not underserved. But then you get one in the so-called hood, let's just be real.
Yeah, let's talk.
Then it makes it doubly difficult. So the good developers that would come in, they would hit the wall when it came to getting the money for it. Now, and I mentioned that at the time the mayor was William Bell. And also the other impediment was the fact that the city was prohibited from selling the land. It had to be leased to the developer. So now you go into a bank. It's a hotel. Bank says, yeah, we'll look at it, but we don't really like hotels. Then so it's an underserved community. Oh, wow. Strike two. Your collateral is going to be an assignment of a lease. It's not going to be a mortgage that you can foreclose. It's going to be a lease that you get assignment of, right? So, strike three. Well, as I explained this to not only the mayor but the city council, that these are the areas that are prohibiting this from being done. And so I kind of left that with them for a while, and then I get a call from the mayor saying, okay, Mr. Smart Guy, why don't you do it, since you're the one that figured out why it can't be done.
But they hired you to tell them why it couldn't be done,
Uh-huh.
which is such irony in
Yeah.
politics and government and law. Yeah, but go ahead.
And so I never really thought about doing a hotel. But after thinking about it, I think he gave me 3 or 4 days to think about it, and I went back and said, okay, I'll do it. I'll give it a shot.
So the hotel that you own in the Crossplex, do you also have the land where the Starbucks is and all the properties over? So Starbucks is one of your tenants.
Yes, I leased the land from the city, not just the hotel part, but that whole entire parcel is about 12 acres.
Right,
So I own the building that the Starbucks is in, and Chase Bank is in that
right.
building.
And this is the hotel that you own here,
Okay.
which is awesome.
That's the hotel.
One of my mentors, Michael V. Roberts, you familiar with him? He's in St. Louis. I promise you, y'all look like brothers, but I'll dovetail y'all maybe in a conversation later date. But he owns a lot of hotels in St. Louis. Very smart man, very, very, very good visionary man. He reminds me so much of you. But this facility here that's on the screen now, this is the building that you're referring to, right?
Mhm,
How many
the building.
hotel rooms are in this particular facility?
100.
100 hotel rooms.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very good. And so you're saying the other land, and maybe we can pull up an image of the Starbucks, because there's an entire strip mall over on that side, on that land that sits within that 12-acre parcel, right?
Yes.
I've been hearing about the city developing a family life center in that area. Is that still in the works? And I'm not going to ask you to get into
I
details
don't
about
know.
that.
I mean,
but
the city has indicated, for quite a while that they were going to develop that
Right.
there. And, most of there's a construction fence, a silk fence
Right.
there, but nothing has started. I mean, if the city said they're going to do it, I would have to assume that eventually they're going to do it, but it's just kind of been a while.
what is your vision for the remaining acreage in that vicinity that you own or that you have control over, basically?
Yeah. So I developed the two buildings with the Starbucks, Chase Bank. We just got
So
another
Chase
tenant
Bank is
there.
one of your tenants, too?
Yes.
That's awesome.
And in
That's
the other
strong.
building, of course, is J Wings, Domino's, Trustmark Bank, and a couple other tenants.
I love it, yeah. Get a little comfortable
So-
talking to us. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
So it worked out. So my politics in the city of Birmingham changed.
Yeah.
And it's,
Pull up the Starbucks, too, if y'all can. I apologize. Keep going.
yeah. So
Yeah.
my desire is to continue to develop there. Just finding the right tenants.
Right.
You know.
And, I can relate to a lot of that because in Inslee, where my office is, we have properties, like in that western corridor, even same zip code area you guys are in with your development. And the city's under court order to build a $20 million building across from properties that we own.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're kindred spirits in a lot of ways, and much of which you've mentored me through, and then much of which I've watched at a distance over the years. And even talking to you now, we have so many parallels of aspirations for that Inslee area.
Sure.
And so it's very encouraging to see how you have managed to thrive in the midst of an adverse economy and, just keep everything moving in the right direction. So, because that Starbucks over there is beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
and
very
it does,
nice.
It does well.
And so when they come in for the activities at the Crossplex, I'm sure you see a lot of people booking the hotel and a lot of activity over there. And so this is a view, for those who don't know, this is a view of the Starbucks that Mr. Nesbitt's referring to that he actually owns.
Yes.
And so you can see off behind the Starbucks, if there's a way to move the screen, but I apologize, I may be asking too much here with TAV Media, but thank y'all so much. Y'all do a great job. But that just kind of gives the viewers the ability to kind of see how vast of an area that you have taken control of. And I'm just very grateful that you've done that and have the resolve and the resilience to continue to stay invested in that area because it has tremendous potential, tremendous potential. But I, like you, in some cases, seemingly you have to fight against spiritual warfare in your mind that it's not turning fast enough or it's not doing as good as you desire, but just kind of keeping that mental health in its proper perspective, where you don't just throw in the towel and quit when you see a couple bad quarters. Talk to us about that. What has that been like for you mentally and emotionally and financially, if you will? Just kind of speak to that.
I think that's an important component of it. The capital structuring is very difficult, but still, what you're talking about is the mental and spiritual fortitude
Yes.
that it takes. I mean, I remember during the process, we opened the hotel Starbucks opened about the same time, September 2018. Well, we started this process in 2015.
Wow. 3 years.
3 years. And I remember before, the construction was complete and all that stuff, even before the construction was started, I remember oftentimes, I would come home in the evening and my wife would ask me, "Why are you doing this? You don't have to do it." And I would try to answer her, and the reason was, well, first of all, nobody else can seem to do it, and so it's
Wow.
almost like a calling,
Yes. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So if you figured out the problem and then were asked to figure out the solution, then maybe it's something you ought to do.
Yeah.
And so it's paid off. The hotel has turned out to be very successful. I was, every morning I leave church. Every Sunday morning I leave church. Our service starts at 8 in Fultondale at Livingstone's, and I'm out 9:30, 9:45. So I go to the hotel. It's a 15-minute drive to the hotel, and I get a briefing of what happened the week leading up to that Sunday. And so today was no exception. Just to give you an example, and this is pretty typical, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we had an average occupancy above 90%.
That's awesome. In the hood.
In the hood.
In Inslee. Now, put your hands together for that.
Yeah.
Now, allow me to say this to you too. The dynamic of that racial component of those persons in the hotel. What do you perceive it is? Like, out of so many African Americans or Caucasians, of other people of nationalities, other races that come and stay in that hotel, what do you perceive that statistics look like?
If I looked at it on an annual basis, I would say 60% white, 40% black.
Right.
But on a weekend like this one, when nothing's going on at the Crossplex, yet we were 100% occupied Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
That's incredible.
That ratio would be 30. It would be 30% white, 70% black. But when the Crossplex is going on, obviously, it skews.
Right.
The other thing that I had going for myself is the fact that from a mental, spiritual thing is that one obstacle that I talked about, it being in an underserved area, we called it the hood. Well, I've been underserved all my life, and so it didn't bother me.
Come on.
So the big part of that process was dealing with the community. It's something that had to be done. They had a voice, and we met. Well, we had a standing meeting every month, but then they would call me between those months to come and talk to one group or another. And for a lot of developers, they would feel very uncomfortable doing that. But I didn't feel uncomfortable at all because I was relating to my own folks.
Right.
So that gave me certainly a leg up. And I think it gave the community a sense of comfort that I was willing to listen and I was willing to answer. I don't care how mundane the question might be. I was willing to either answer the question or find an answer to the question, and that helped tremendously.
How did you communicate that calling to your family and to your wife, and how do you continue to communicate that calling and that standard of excellence and mental fortitude of what it requires to be successful? Because me knowing you over the years, you have a spirit of excellence on you. Things are going to have to be at a certain level, or you're going to voice some discontentment to that, and rightfully so. Mm-hmm. But how do you communicate that standard of that spirit of excellence to your family, to your employees? How do you do that? And then still mentally, cognitively dealing with problems and maintaining a sense of what I'm referring to as togetherness, where you just don't disintegrate because of somebody calling you about a broken window, a problem, an employee won't show up to work, somebody quit, somebody stole something, then you got to take that home. How do you mentally decompress and take that into a domestic environment every day?
Okay.
Or do you take it at
I'm going to have to
home?
find a way to answer this without letting that answer take up the whole segment. Okay?
Yeah, you're fine. No, it's
no, it's, first, your family's support is very important because it takes a toll on you as an individual. So my wife, for example, would question from time to time, I don't want to see you feel appearing to be so burdened with these things. And and I would, it's just you have to make them believers. If you are a believer, you have to make them believers.
That's right.
And if they know that you're not going to give up, and that you have a purpose behind what you're doing, it's interesting how they then decide they're going to support you, no matter what. And it's a long process, and it's an arduous process. But without, I hear your question, and it would take. The answer is probably deeper than I'm getting into currently, but there is a spiritual component to this.
Absolutely.
You have to you have to believe that you are being summoned to do something.
Right.
And listen, I never felt like I was a savior of this community or nothing like that.
No.
Now I ended up being the biggest landowner in the community.
Right.
But that was not the objective.
Right.
But I want to say all of my tenants, then you add the hotel, all of our employees don't come from that community.
Right.
But from that community alone, we probably hire 100 people.
Wow.
Full-time, full-time jobs.
100 people full time. That is awesome. Put your hands together for that. That is incredible. Just from the community. Wow. That is incredible. What are your thoughts on, just as an entrepreneur, which we obviously know that means to be one who takes on risk? How do you see it to be healthy that you isolate some things you mentally have to warfare through versus putting that before your family? Have you found in times past that things hit your ears that you say, man, I won't even talk to my wife about this, I won't talk to my kids about it, I'm just gonna deal with it and bring it to some resolve or finality and just move on like it never happened? Did you ever find yourself in this point in business, or have you ever found yourself in this?
Where are you getting these questions from? That's such an interesting question, and it's a very good question, but there is a it happens more often than people know.
What happens more?
Well, that there are circumstances during the business operating process, during the development process, during the financing process,
hiring staff,
capital raising process. There are things that I just won't bring up to family. Now, my wife is very supportive, and she's smart enough to understand anything that I want to talk about. Okay, but there are just some things that I just leave out because it may be having such a toll on me.
Right.
I know that I feel like I'm going to work it out, and I'm going to work it out to the end. But that's just something I put to the side. She hears about it when I'm getting a lot closer to fulfillment of it. But during the dirt shoveling and all the mechanics of getting some of these things worked out, I just don't bring them up.
That's amazing.
And so when something is accomplished Sometimes I'll forget, and I'll hear the words, I didn't know you were working on that. But that's just how it goes.
Yeah, and I've talked to my pastor about some things just in life and the evolution of business, and whether it's ministry or business, and you just, you're wanting to be there and all, and it's just it's such a process. I want to do this for the remaining time we have. For those of you that have questions, I would like if we could get the audio box on the floor. And if you have questions, if you could speak loud enough either into the audio box or stand, I'll try to repeat the question so that the online audience would have the benefit of hearing what the question is. And we'll get Mr. Nesbitt to kind of weigh in on that to provide some of his wisdom and guidance. So y'all been blessed by what he's sharing with us?
Thank you. Thank you.
Because, and I'll just say this too as we prepare. Do we have the audio box on the floor? I'll just say this too, with the business we run is not of the magnitude, scale, or scope of what you have, but like I said, I just admire so much what I perceive to be the necessity of the mental fortitude to manage projects at that scale and deal with people at that scale, and then to keep yourself together as well as you have kept yourself together. I just truly admire that, because inside the mind of an entrepreneur, sometimes it seems like a tornado is going on in your head, and you still have to communicate with people, and so it takes a lot. Would you say?
It takes a lot because as we can all understand, we don't have a lot of peers. We want to have a lot of peers. But they're not. When you don't have a lot of peers, that means you don't have a lot of people to talk to.
Right.
And so, sometimes you're on an island. A lot of times you're on an island. And there's a sense of loneliness sometimes with having thoughts and obstacles and objectives that for a fact that your good friends, most of them, 90% of them, wouldn't relate to what you're talking about.
They wouldn't have a clue.
Wouldn't have a clue. So you just have to deal with it a lot of times.
Do you think it would be reckless to talk to someone who has less experience in an area that you're dealing with something on a level that you understand?
I wouldn't say reckless, but maybe fruitless.
Fruitless.
Fruitless. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's nothing against them.
No, never against the person.
Because they're probably very good at what they do. It's just
Right.
that they don't have a full understanding of what you do.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so in dealing with that, what three things you suggest to people to do when they're in that space or in that head space that you're referring to, where you feel isolated, you don't have your peers don't, not like I said, it's not reckless, it's a misuse of words by me, but it's going to be fruitless to talk to them about certain things, but listen, I still have to process these decisions, and I have to make a decision that's in the best interest of this company and this company's growth, and obviously your family. Does your family work in your business?
No.
Okay, you have sons, right?
Yes.
And none of your sons, they don't
But
work,
I have one son and two daughters.
but they don't work in the business.
They do not.
Right, and your wife doesn't work in the business?
No.
Okay, but you make decisions about the business indiscriminate of what your wife does and your children do, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And let me tell you, I do bounce certain things off my wife because, like I said, she's not a business person, but she's innately smart.
That's good.
So I do talk to her, but the fact that you don't have a lot of people to talk to, you just have to understand the power of prayer.
Yes.
And so, there's one partner you can always go to. And that helps.
Yes.
That helps. And when the prayer is over, it's like if it works out, I know who did it because I didn't know how to do it. And if it doesn't work out, then I understand that it wasn't for me.
Wow.
And I've benefited from things not being for me sometimes, and I know I've benefited from it because the fact that I didn't do it and it got done some other way and it didn't work out, then I knew it wasn't for me. So.
Wow. That's awesome. Someone had their hand up in the back.
Hello, Mr. Nesbitt. It's
Hello.
nice to see you. Thank you so much for coming today. I have two questions for you. The first question has to deal with how do you get started? Like, for instance, there is a franchise that me and my husband were interested in starting, but it requires you to have $750,000 in liquid capital and $1.5 million net worth. How do you go from I work a 9 to 5 to being able to do something like that?
Wow, that's a very good question. You know, the issue is there's a capital requirement, and then there's a net worth requirement. The capital requirement is what you have to put into the business, and then on top of that, you have to have a certain net worth. If you're dead set on being in that business, oftentimes a partner is required. Oftentimes a partner is required. And if you're like me, you really love your independence. I didn't go into this with a partner, but if I had to, I would have. Knowing that my first one was in a partnership, but that doesn't mean my second one has to be in a partnership.
Right.
So I'm going to make some money in this partnership. I'm going to increase my liquidity. As a result of that, my net worth will be higher, and that will allow me to move on, on my own. That is the most prevalent solution to that issue. Yes.
Okay. And my second question has to be about these charging stations now. I know that you said that you moved away from the gas station business in 2000. So now that all these charging stations and such are coming and more people are investing in hybrid vehicles and electric vehicles, is that something that may potentially, I guess in the future, be more, advantageous to do as opposed to a traditional gas station? What are your thoughts on charging stations?
Okay, so if I understand your question correctly, would some of these issues like electrical vehicles would their existence affect the convenience store business?
Not necessarily. What I'm saying is that you have your Buc-ee's, you have your Shells, you have your this, you have your that. And what you've noticed now that a lot of these Exxons and Shells now have charging stations over on the side, and they're becoming more prevalent. Like, I remember at first I saw Exxon maybe had 4. Now they have 8. And you start to see the gasoline part start to wane and the charging stations start to go. Is that something that we should be looking towards if we were to go into that type of a business? Is that what you're seeing? Is that the trend? Or is it more like right now that's what people are doing, but big oil is going to still have some place in it? I guess I'm asking for your thoughts on having maybe a charging station, gas station, as opposed to a traditional gas station.
Yeah. I don't believe the advent of electrical vehicles will curtail the development of the gas station business. I don't believe so. Now, I do see the possibility of the charging business becoming entities of their own. I can see somebody setting up a charging business, going to service stations, convincing service station owners to have charging stations. Mm-hmm. So let's say in any part of Birmingham you have 20 of these. You could have one company or a couple of companies owning all of those, just the charging stations, and leasing this stuff to the gas station owner. I can definitely see that. Also the possibility of a the gas station owner generally is not the guy that has the mindset to have charging stations over here, but that same gas station owner could be sold on the fact that if you give me this parcel of land, I'm going to put my units here. They've bought the units, they've paid for the units, and then I'm going to lease all this stuff to you. I can see that definitely. So, you know, if I heard of a man or woman who decided that they wanted to go into the electrical charging station business, I could see that.
You know, that's interesting you say that because when President Biden was in office, he allocated $7.5 billion for a national network to support 500,000 electric vehicles in the U.S. And that same bill was also included a $5 billion national electric vehicle infrastructure program. So there's money being allocated to kind of help these hybrid stations that go from just strictly gas to gas, diesel, and electric to have the build-out monies available for that. It's a great question.
And I will say that I'm a third owner of two other hotels. In those, I have a couple of partners. One is in Tuscaloosa.
What's the name of that hotel?
It's the Capstone Hotel, which
Okay.
is on the campus of the University of Alabama. And we're actually in the process now of converting that
Yeah.
to what's called a graduate hotel. I would urge everybody to look up
How many units is
graduate.
in there?
It's 100 and, no, it's 220. And the graduate hotel is a Hilton product. There's only one currently in the state of Alabama, and it's at Auburn. So now the University of Alabama will have its graduate hotel. Part of this conversion, we're adding a charging station. Now, the other one that I'm a third owner of, and the same two partners in each one, is we're developing a Spring Hill Suites, which is a Marriott product. It is probably 98% finished. We plan to have a grand opening in July.
Okay.
We also have a charging station with it.
Where is this? Is it Tuscaloosa, Spring Hill?
No, it's
Suites?
in Leeds, Alabama.
Leeds, Alabama. Okay,
It's
very
right.
good.
It's right. It's adjacent to the Bass Pro Shop.
Wow. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and that's 140 units. So the question is good. So we talked about the hotel business. We talked about the gas station business. The charging business has become part of both.
Right.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. I see a hand in the back for a few more questions, and we'll be done here in just a moment. Y'all being blessed by what Mr. Nesbitt is sharing with us? I mean, yeah. I mean, just a very natural discussion where we just kind of get into the nuts and bolts, so to speak, of some of the deep-seated questions, and also trying to route out fears from some who may be willing to make the investment in the gas station or hotel business. This kind of gives you that inside look, you know? Yes, ma'am. Hand in the back. Ms. White?
Quick question, but you started to answer part of my question when you answered her first question about how to go from, you know, a 9-to-5 job to owning a hotel or gas station business. What would you suggest concerning partnering with someone? One of my neighbors owns 5 hotels in Birmingham, and he is of Indian descent. And he said that their thing, you know, this is not a racial thing, but if you notice, there are a lot of Indians that own hotels. But he said that they partner with each other to own a hotel. And then once that partnership gets, acquires the hotel, then that person will break off and then they'll start another one.
Right.
Until each person in that partnership is sole owner of one hotel. What do you suggest, or do you suggest that that's something that we could do to get to the point where we're able to afford, to put down that $4 or $5 million required for owning a hotel or a gas station?
Well, I think part of the answer was in your question. If you're not there now, then the partnership issue is real, and a lot of people have used that to become independent business owners. But, you know, the 9 to 5, you got a 9 to 5 job, and you're looking at becoming an independent business person. Yeah, I mean, and I don't know if your interest is in the convenience store business or the hotel business or both or what, but if you know somebody that you think could be a partner of yours, you have to get with that person and determine who can contribute what.
Right.
You know, you got money, that can be contributed. You got time that can be contributed. You have expertise that can be contributed. You have leg work, you know, a lot of leg work that has to be done on the front end that could be contributed. So, but that, for that person who doesn't have the capital initially to go into it, has a job, that could be the way forward. And it also could be a way to get into it, be a part owner, continue to have the job until you have gotten enough resources, made enough money out of that partnership to, if you want to leave your job and become an independent, you know, business owner. Say that again?
Put the speaker. We can't hear you,
Yeah.
Ms. White.
I think she said, how do banks feel about partnerships? Well, you know, it could be, a bank could view it positively, assuming that each partner brings something to the table. And if the partnership is a way to make something work that otherwise didn't work, then of course that's good for the bank as well. So the bank does not look down on a request or an application just because it's a partnership.
That's good. Next question, please.
Hello. Yes, I have a question.
Can you speak up, please? I apologize.
Yes.
Over here. Yes.
I
Thank
have
you.
a question. I run a short-term rental, and it's very successful.
A short-term,
Yeah, like Verbo, Airbnb.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yes, I've been doing it for 5 years. I'm very successful. I live off exit 100, and they do have some space there. You can put a hotel there. Maybe we could go and partner. So what I want to ask you, I really wanted to ask you about, like I said, on exit 100, it's growing like crazy. And I bought a foreclosed house 18 years ago, and I bought it for $112. It's almost $300,000.
That's great.
And matter of fact, that business that I own, I live there, but I get out of there, my short-term rental, and I'm on 66,000 sites, and it's very successful. And I'm glad I'm here, because I was looking at all this land off exit 100 to the right before you get to Tuscaloosa. And that'll be a great place to put a hotel right there,
yeah.
Okay.
because it's growing.
That's good. That's good.
So are you trying to do business with me, or are you asking me a question?
Yeah, I would love to do business with you.
Okay. You know, let me say this. Very good question. And I'm going to, for somebody who owns land that has been determined to be a good location, what better way to become a partner? So I think her name was Mrs. White, maybe? Ask a question about, and my answer to her question was, partnerships are determined by who brings what to the table.
Right.
Well, bringing the land to the table is extremely important because land is capital. Land is a large component of the capital building process. So for somebody who has the land but doesn't want to sell the land, They would rather become a partner in the enterprise. Most developers would be interested in discussing that. Now, of course, as a developer, I'm going to try my best to talk you into selling me the land,
Right.
okay? Because I want the whole thing.
Right.
However, if you say, well, I'm really not interested in selling it, what I really want to do is be a partner with you. And if the land was 20% of the entire capital process, then you might want to be a 20% partner. To be honest with you, if I was in your shoes and the land was 20% of the capital, I would probably want to be a 30% partner, because you have nothing without me, because I own the land, right? So, but assuming that you are correct, that would make a great hotel. So I started out with location, location, location. If you're right about that, then I would say that your chances of being a partner in an enterprise like in the development of a hotel, say, are pretty good, because people who are in the business of developing hotels, they're out looking right now for sites. And if you have one, then there you go.
That's good. Let me ask you this question too. What are your thoughts on? Well, let me back up. I've heard a lot of things about million, 1.5 million, and I'm making a statement in deference to some of the statements that were said earlier. Sometimes, and I want you to weigh in on this. Sometimes we can desire to enter a business or start an investment at a level by which our finances, a credit, or amount of money we have to invest is, notice how I say this, not at that level yet. But sometimes people will put that much burden on themselves and say, if I do it, I'm going to start at this level, 1.5 million, 2 million. I think in that regard, you can almost create or put yourself at a disadvantage if you're not careful. You're shaking your head as if you agree with that.
I do agree with it.
Yeah, and so sometimes you gotta, you get to the 1.5 million, 2 million, 3 million, start at 150,000, start at 15,000, because first the blade, then the ear, then the full corn in the ear. So sometimes you can have such a great big vision you want to do right out the gate, and that's a good thing. But if you don't understand the law of progression, you'll never get started at that point if you haven't got there yet. And I'm saying it in the sense of, you're saying my entry point has to be at a 2 million, 3 million, where I own 30% or 50% or whatever. If you don't have the resource for that yet, be okay with that. But the key is get started at some level by which you can enter that market or enter that business. So that's my advice to you on that part.
It's good advice.
You think that's good advice?
Yes.
Last question, I'll ask you this. How do you, as an entrepreneur, how do you process managing risk throughout your everyday life, and while still seeking to expand and further scale your business? Like, you have these 3 balls in the air, you have 3 hotels coming out of 7 gas stations, you have tenants, some 10, 20 different tenants, including, Starbucks, J-Wings, you name it, banks, et cetera. What is the driver for you to continue to pursue even greater things?
Wow, good question.
Because sometimes people get content with what they have, and then they're like, I'm good. And they're not stretching anymore, they're not growing anymore. But I'll just kind of tip my hand and say this. It's really, in my opinion, it drives you to a point of understanding I'm willing to sacrifice more.
Yeah.
I'm willing to sacrifice more, willing to take on more risk, while at the same time not losing yourself with juggling what you have, if there is a way of saying it.
That really boils down to an individual and
Sure.
what they really want for themselves, or what stage of life they're in. Needless to say, my aggressiveness to develop things is less now, at the age I'm at now, than it was 20 years ago. 20 years ago, I was scratching and clawing and out driving around all day looking for sites, but I'm not doing that now.
Yeah.
And of course, I was also exposing myself to more risk. I was willing to take more risk in order to gain more.
Right.
So, you know, rarely do I see the person who says, I've got enough, you know. Even though, you know, my wife tells me to stop telling people that I'm retired. I said, you know I am. You know, I sold my interest in Engle Realty and they paid me off, and that was my retirement. You know, I retired, you know, and she said, but stop saying that. And I said, well, why should I stop saying it? She said, because you leave here every morning between 8:30 and 8:45, you know, and going to work. But yet you're retired. Now, I do have an office in my hotel.
Right.
I said, well, I am retired because I don't have to work. But I'm still interested in seeing what's going on, seeing what opportunities are out there. And just, I mean, a classic example is I got a call, actually it was about this time last year, it was in June, from Jack's. And I just built the new Jack's. I own the building, Jack's, you know, leases it. But over at the Crossplex, right? And
It's my guy right
so
here.
I was,
Tell him.
you know, but I did that during my retirement.
It's my guy.
But that was an opportunity that came in, and who wouldn't do that? You know, it's a 20-year lease from Jack's. So then, you know, you go out and borrow the money and find a contractor, and you have a mortgage payment, and the Jack's pays you rent, and then you have a profit above that mortgage payment, right? So whatever that profit is, I got it for 20 years. And so in the case of Jack's, very similar to Walgreens, I did the same thing on the other corner with Walgreens at Crossplex Village, and those credit tenants, like that.
Talk, man.
The difference between a mortgage payment and the rent is not something to sneeze at. It's fairly significant. And I think in the case of Walgreens, it was a 15-year lease, but in the case of Jack's, it's a 20-year lease. So all you have to do for 20 years is if the roof leaks, you got to fix it. But other than that, they take care of everything else. They cut their own grass and everything else. It's a triple net lease.
Right.
So yeah, you're a real estate guy. It's a triple net lease. So so you do some of these things when you're so-called retired, but you know, you're crazy not to do them. So opportunities come up regardless of your stage in these things or your age or whatever, but you just find a way to do them.
Well, that's what you're saying. I mean, that's why you don't have to grind as hard now.
Yes.
Because when you were 20 years younger, riding around in a truck, you were being established as the guy. I mean, not in an arrogant way, but like, that's what you're doing. People knew you for that. So as you did that for 5 years, 10 years out, you didn't need to keep doing riding around in a truck, because now people bringing you deals.
That's
People
true.
are calling you saying, hey, I already see you already own that, so we want to work with you on this or that. That's amazing. Let me ask you this other question too. Sometimes, and this is a general statement, and I'll ask you a question. Sometimes we can look at other races like Indians, Hispanics, and we wonder how not only are they able to survive, but how are they owning gas stations and things like that. But you'll go in a gas station, for example, with an Indian, and you'll see the father working. Then next day you come in there, who you gonna see in there? Then the Tuesday, who you gonna see? Right, and then by Friday, you're gonna see an older person, which is the guy's dad. And you know where they're probably living? All in the same house. So, and you see that with Indians coming to this country. You've seen that with Hispanics coming to this country. See, African Americans, because in some cases we have not fully, you weigh in on this too, we haven't understand the significance of being communal. And I'm not talking about just living in the same neighborhood, but being communal, like, look, we're gonna all sacrifice together, so when you break up out of here, you'll have that station, because I understand you sacrificed to understand what it takes to run this station while I ran it to start it. It's like a marathon. I'm not gonna run it the whole 400 yards, 400 meters. I'm gonna hand this thing off at some point, but I'm not handing you something if you're not showing me you're willing to run with me while I'm still holding it. You got, so what, I'm asking, So when you see that in those businesses, you have to understand the trajectory is these people are working, they're exchanging shifts to get that business as far as it can, as fast as it can, and they're compressing expenses as far as quality of life, living expenses, saving money. May not even be paying each other a whole lot of money, but they understand they're doing it as a communal effort. Now, here's my question. Do you see or have experience with African Americans willing to do that? In your years of business, have you seen African Americans, by and large, take that mentality and apply that mentality to any business at any scale to fully understand that if everyone puts in this thing in the sense of sacrifice, growth, development, notice how I say this, deferred compensation, that you're setting up something that builds within it a legacy component by default?
Yeah. My experience is that I don't see it.
No.
In my own community.
No.
But I will say this. And some might see that and say, well, that's because they're not willing to work together or they don't trust each other. I don't necessarily think that's the case. If, in your example, one day you go in there, there's the owner. Then the next day you go in, there's the brother. Next day you go in, there's the nephew. Next day you go in, there's the grandfather. Just keep in mind that payroll amount is now going to the same entity. Now, that is capital. If it's a hotel and you got the same situation, and the family is staying in the hotel.
Oh, they'll do it. I got clients that do it, the Patels.
So that, let's say, now while you asking, let's say my front desk costs, front desk only. You know, you got your desk clerks, your inside sales agent, your outside sales agent. You got these people, manager, assistant manager. Those are the front desk people. You know, that's not maintenance, that's not housekeeping, none of that. But I'm just make this, let's say that's $45,000 a month.
A month. So $500,000
Actually, it would be more than that if I count the manager. But let's say it's 60. Yes, let's say it's 50,000 a month. That's going to be a round number.
$600,000 annually.
So that's capital.
Right.
So if their objective is to add more assets, wealth, then that's $600,000 that they have built in a year to invest into something else. Somebody talked about the fact that these family members, you know, the enterprise is not satisfied until everybody has one.
Right.
Well, that's how they're having one. That's how they're doing it.
That's good.
And they're helping each other to do it. Now, with that kind of understanding, you know, I see heads going like this. So now we know. Once we get that kind of understanding, so some of these folks come to this country with that thought in mind.
That's good.
That's how we're going to do it. Over there is a place where we can do this. Well, once we learn that, I think we will start to do it too, but it's something that has to be learned, then experienced, and then put into practice.
Right.
And if you put that into practice, and your family members end up each owning a hotel, then why wouldn't you do it, right?
That's good. That's good. Listen, for those of you that are participating with us online, did you have a question in the back?
Yes.
Okay, great. What was your question?
First off, it's an honor and a pleasure to be able to be in this space. So I say that first. I'm a inventor and master architect of behavioral mechanics and cognitive thinking. I invented the AI, and I was wondering what would be your view on if AI technology would be of use to what you have going on now.
AI would be what?
He's asking what benefit would AI be of use to you for what you have going on? And what we'll do, that's a very in-depth question, because I mean, you've just kind of given us a outlay of what a front-end management cost would be, around $600K a year. And I guess what the gentleman's asking is that how would AI help him with that?
How would AI benefit you in this position now of business, being able to effectively communicate, being able to teach people that you hire accurately, just in general, how would AI fit into the structure in this time?
I think it's a size of business kind of thing, and right now, as I am structured, I haven't determined how AI can help me. As an owner of 3 hotels, 2 of them with partners, and other retail type establishments. I also own apartments. Right now, I haven't really determined how AI can help me with that. But if I was an owner of 3 times that or 5 times that, then I think I would be forced to adapt to using AI because of having to be competitive.
Right.
Because my competition most likely is going to be using, AI technology to advertise themselves, get the word out, and things like that. And I think I would have to as well. But with the scale, speaking of scale, the size I am now, I really have not thought about how AI could help me.
I understand. Well, thank you so much. For those of you participating with us online, we want to thank you for tuning in for this exciting episode we've had today. And for those of you who are here, we want to thank you. And please join me on your feet, and let's give Mr. Nesbitt a final hand clap as he prepares to depart. And thank you so much,
Thank
sir.
you.
We greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Been my pleasure.
Yes,
Thank you all.